Hi, welcome back to the channel, y'all. If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button too, so you're notified every time a new video goes up on this channel. We follow all our stories all the way through to the end. And we put content up every single day. So hit the notification bell as well, so you're notified every time a new piece of content goes up on this channel. Now, let's get into the Diddy trial verdict. There's a lot of people out here who's salty right now because they actually wanted to see Diddy lose everything he has worked for, the mansions, the private jet, the yachts, lose everything and go to prison for potentially the rest of his life. I mean, he's already 50 something years old, I believe 54. So another 30, 40 years sentence, you're 94, 95 years old coming out of prison type thing. But it didn't work out that way, thank God. And yeah, we were advocates and we said he should be free because we saw the bullshit from the door. You know what I mean? You do something strange for a little bit of change. You do even more stranger things for more greater things, rewards and trinkets and whatnot. And then you feel bad about what you did later on in life. So you say somebody did it or made you do it. There's something that's called accountability that I think was missing from this whole case anyways. But let's get into the facts about what just happened and what is to come so everybody stays on the same page without me going off on a rant tangent about my personal feelings. So, Sean Diddy Combs' verdict update. The jury has found him guilty on 2 counts in sex trafficking trial. Let's talk about the counts he was found guilty on and the counts that he beat. Here are a couple of things to know about this trial. 1, the jury reached a verdict after 3 days of deliberation. 2, the jury told the judge that it reached a verdict on 4 counts against Diddy, but could not decide on a racketeering charge. Its note to the judge said that there were jurors with unpersuadable views on both sides. The judge told them, get back in there, keep on deliberating. Diddy's attorneys told the judge, please tell them to get back in there and keep on deliberating. And no, we are not willing to accept a partial verdict. So the judge sent them back. What you need to know also is Diddy was facing 5 criminal counts. 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy has, of course, denied these allegations against him, and they did give a plea deal of which he said, I'm turning that shit down. Take this to trial because I know I'm not guilty of a RICO charge. Well, he was right. And luckily, he wasn't scared and took the damn plea deal. Most people, when they go up against the feds, they have this perception that the feds are, with a high conviction rate, most likely going to get you convicted on all charges. So they tend to take the plea deal instead, not Diddy. So this briefing may include some graphic description and some things that you might be uncomfortable about, but bear with me, that was your forewarning. So, the defense won 3 acquittals, saying that Diddy was only guilty of the Mann Act transportation of former girlfriend Cassie Ventura and Jane. So for the people in my comment section who keep on saying, this is not about them, the girls, this is about the guys. There was nothing in here that says he was charged for transporting any guys. These were grown men who made their way to and from these events. Of course, at their request, at Cassie's request, which she says was really at Diddy's request some of the times, but sometimes at her request and mostly at her request, right? So this was about them, Cassie and Jane, claiming that they were transported and they were forced and coerced and they were all these other things. So he was found not guilty of running a criminal enterprise and 2 counts of sex trafficking. Not guilty. The sex trafficking part, lots of years behind bars. Transportation to engage in prostitution, not so much. Those carry 10 years at a minimum, 20 years both. The prosecution said they're going to ask the judge to give him that much, but I just looked up the law. In the state of Florida, that same law, transportation to engage in prostitution, actually carries the same amount of years, 10 years, how at a max. However, most people that get hit with that as a first-time offense and they have nothing else on their record pertaining to such an offense, they usually get about 30 to 60 days behind bars. Diddy been locked up since last year sometime. So he's already done way past what a first-time offender under that would have gotten. Now, guilty on count 5. He was found guilty on count 5, which is the Mann Act transportation of former girlfriend Jane. Mind you, Jane is the one who came in the courtroom, testified and said she still loves him, testified and said he was my baby, testified and said he had 3 guys have sex with her in one night before he was the 4th person, and then she cuddled with him, and that was the best part of the night for her, cuddling with him. Also, she's the one who said $15,000 for her birthday, $20,000 to start a business, which she didn't. She spent the money. He still pays for the house she lives in. He still gives her $10,000 a month to go shopping. He took her out on a luxury vacation and gave her a $100,000 shopping spree limit. So, he was not charged with trafficking her. He was charged with transportation to engage in prostitution. That's simply broken down as like this. I'm going to take you over here to go get some dick. Okay? Now, he was found guilty on that, taking her there. He was not guilty on count 4. He was found not guilty on count 4, which is sex trafficking of Jane. And on count 3, he was found guilty on count 3, the Mann Act transportation of Cassie as well. In other words, he would take Jane and Cassie to places where sex would happen, and he knew before taking them there that that was the purpose of taking them there, that sex was going to happen. But a lot of the times they were in agreement with it, so it wasn't trafficking, it wasn't by force and coercion. It proved in court by Cassie's own, I'm always up for a freak-off, and by her own admitting that she would organize these events and she would source the guys for the events. Same thing for Jane. Not guilty on count 2. He was found not guilty on count 2, which is a sex trafficking count of Cassie. So he never sex trafficked Cassie, is what the jury says. Not guilty on count 1. He was found not guilty on count 1, which was the racketeering conspiracy charge. Now, the jury went back, returned to the courtroom after sending the note saying that it had reached a verdict on all counts and all counts were read. The jury actually deliberated for 13 hours in total across 3 days. Mind you, this is a trial that took 7 weeks of testimony, 34 witnesses on behalf of the prosecution, and it took 13 hours of deliberation for a jury of 12 to come up with this decision. Prosecutor puts on 34 witnesses in the case. So over 6 weeks, the prosecutors called 34 witnesses to argue their case against Diddy. The witnesses range from alleged victims and escorts to law enforcement agents and assistants. Cassie, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, testified that, she accused Diddy of physical abuse, of control, and of having her participate in drug-fueled sexual encounters with male escorts. Cassie was pregnant visibly at the time of her testimony. Shortly after she wrapped up giving her testimony in court, she went and gave birth. Rapper Scott Mescudi, professionally known as Kid Cudi, he testified. There were other key witnesses included in it. Maya accused Diddy of sexually assaulting her on multiple occasions and said that she witnessed Diddy lashing out at Cassie. Maya also described cleaning up after couples nights in hotel rooms, not just with Diddy and and Cassie, but also with Diddy and the mother of his children, who has now passed away, Kim Porter. Jane testified in participating in hotel nights and sleeping with many escorts to please Diddy. She said that his constant need for sex, for entertainment, left her sore and tired and exhausted and overwhelmed. And she herself started watching porns and stuff because she was trying to figure out what the hell is it about this that her partner finds like so attractive, like he needs it. Right? The jury has alerted the court at this point. The jury told the judge that it reached a verdict on all counts, and they gave their counts. Now, they said that Diddy led his family in prayer as they waited on the deliberations in the courtroom. He said, "Let us pray. Lord, please watch over my family. Amen." Very short prayer. It wasn't, "Lord, I'm sorry. Please take me through this. If you save me, I'll never do this again." None of that. It was, "Let us pray. Lord, please watch over my family." The end. The family and some of their supporters started to clap loudly in court after he did that. Diddy and his loved ones were there awaiting the verdict. Diddy sat alone reading at the defense table while his attorneys huddled against a wall, gesticulating and conversing amongst themselves. The defendant's mother, Janice Combs, Diddy's mom, and the children, they were seated in a courtroom. They were chatting with the people who were around them, and prosecutors have not entered the courtroom yet at this point. The people around them were seen to be on the Combs side, so they were giving them like, "It's all going to be all right. It's going to work out. We got your back, man. We don't think he's guilty." You know, giving them words of encouragement and whatever else. So, Diddy in a courtroom as jurors should be deliberating. As the clock struck 9 a.m., Diddy stood at the defense table and conferred with Mark Agnofilo, one of his attorneys, that the jurors were expected to resume their talks at 9 a.m. You got to understand that at this point, you're probably like, "Oh my God, it's probably going to be bad, but let's hope that it's good," right? He appears on edge. Diddy's mother and 6 children, they were in the courtroom the day before, along with the mother of his youngest child, Dana Tran. As Diddy got up to leave court, he turned to his family, he blew them a kiss, and he said, "See you tomorrow." He also told his mom, "I love you," and he said, "I'll be all right." His mother asked about the verdict, and he said, "They came back with 4 verdicts, and we're waiting on 1 more. It'll be all right. I'll be all right. I love you," he said. And then he put a slight smile on his face, but his usual optimism appeared notably more subdued, which had a lot of people thinking he must have heard bad news. So the courtroom became tense when the jury's afternoon note came back in, and Diddy's defense team formed a tight huddle around him. Diddy appeared dejected, and he stared at the floor with his hands folded in his lap, like, damn. This had everybody, media, saying, "I think he got found guilty, and he's just awaiting to hear the rest of it." Now, jurors said that yesterday that they were having trouble reaching a consensus on the racketeering conspiracy charge against him. The prosecutors argued that Diddy is part of a criminal enterprise, allegedly using all his businesses and his employees to carry out things like kidnapping and arson and sex trafficking and coercing women into performing sexual acts, and that his businesses were not really legal, legitimate businesses, but they were just fronts that he used to hide his devious sexual lifestyle. I call it bullshit from day one. Because anybody who grew up in an era where Sean John was the shit and you had to have on some Sean John, or when Bad Boy Records was selling records out the wazoo, you know that that business was legit, right? Okay, so the defense argued that Diddy didn't engage in a criminal enterprise, but rather his freak-off nights, they were part of his personal sex life with his girlfriends, and of course, he put some escorts in the mix. His lawyers claimed that he tried to hide the true nature of those nights from his staff. He didn't include them. He had chosen people who would like clean up. Not everybody was privy to these nights that he was having. The judge told the jury to consider 4 elements in determining whether Diddy violated the RICO Act or not. Y'all must determine whether there was an agreement, whether spoken or unspoken, by at least 2 people to participate in these criminal enterprises. They must conclude that Diddy was willful member. He knowingly committed 2 predicate crimes as part of the criminal conspiracy, and racketeering activities must have affected interstate or foreign commerce. That, the jury said, we found none of that. Here's what the jury asked for. Jury deliberation happened behind closed doors, but the public can gain some insight into the process if the group sends notes to the court sending clarification on specific elements of the case. So on Monday, the jury sent a note asking the judge to clarify whether the person who hands some drugs to the distributor, if the recipient specifically asks for the substance, if that is considered distribution. Diddy is not charged with drug distribution, but the prosecution has accused him of possession with the intent to distribute these drugs as a part of his criminal enterprise. Bad move, because that wasn't so. Clearly, he had a drug problem himself, and his assistant, who got caught with the drugs at the airport, who testified on behalf of the prosecution, actually came to court and said he carried drugs for Diddy for his personal use. Not to transport to anybody else, but for his personal use. The jury must agree that Diddy committed at least 2 of these predicate crimes under the RICO Act as one of the criteria for a racketeering charge. Its instructions list drug distribution as predicate crime, in addition to kidnapping and arson and bribery and witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. Yesterday, the jury seemed to want to revisit specific violent incidents that allegedly occurred between Combs and Cassie Ventura. They wanted to see that video one more time. It asks for a transcript excerpt from testimonies about the Intercontinental Hotel assault, which they got. This is when Cassie actually set stuff straight in the courtroom, and by doing so, she actually helped Diddy. If he was seen in that video beating on her because he was dragging her back to the room to go be in a freak-off, he would have been charged with trafficking. That is force and coercion, right? What Cassie's own testimony said was that was actually her leaving the hotel to go do her thing that she wanted to do. And she decided to leave because they had gotten to an argument. And she didn't want the argument to escalate and her get hit and then have bruises and not be able to show up 100% for this event that she had planned. But she was the one who actually initiated that particular freak-off. And when we saw her in the hallway being dragged by Diddy, that was after nights of binging on drugs and doing a freak-off. So the freak-off had already taken place, and it was a freak-off that she initiated. When asked why she initiated that freak-off, she said because if she gave it to him, then she would be able to get what she wanted instead, which was an event she wanted to attend, a premiere, which she thought was the biggest thing in her career so far. So she gave him that so she can get her way. That saved him. That was supposed to sink him in her mind, in the prosecutor's mind, but it actually saved him. That's why the jury wanted to see it again, right? And they asked for the excerpt, the testimony surrounding that video. What did Cassie say happened in that video? All right. At the end of it all, Diddy is off. He is beaten the worst part. And now, yesterday, his attorneys asked for $1 million bail for him to be out on bond, for him to leave jail, go home immediately, be with his family. And again, Judge Subramanian said no. I already called it. They denied him when he put up $50 million before. So why wouldn't they deny him now with $1 million? And this is bail. So we're still going to wait to see what his sentencing is going to be. But the big thing is his empire, his cash, his resources, his assets cannot be touched because he is safe from that. He is supposed to be sentenced in August of 2025 on this. But there's a meeting that's coming up sometime in July where he could be granted bail until the final sentencing. If I'm judging correctly, I think Judge Subramanian, who tried so many times to sabotage this case for one reason or another, and I called it before on my other videos, including I think he is from that South Asian community who has very little respect for African descent people, especially African Americans. So his biasness shows. So there will be no leniency. But let's see what comes out of the rest of this. All right. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll catch you on the next video. I'm out. Peace.